2:14 a.m. Emily Hart's phone lit up on the nightstand beside her bed. 3 seconds later, someone knocked from inside the locked room at the end of the hallway. 3 slow knocks, the same pattern her little brother used when he wanted her attention. The same brother who had disappeared 12 years earlier. Then Emily looked at her phone. The caller ID displayed a name that should not have been possible. Caleb. Her hands froze. The phone kept ringing. The knocking came again. 3 taps. Slow, patient, almost waiting. Then something happened. A child's voice whispered from the other side of her bedroom door. "Don't let it open." Emily spun around. Nobody was there. The hallway beyond her room sat empty and dark. But the phone continued ringing. And somewhere inside the old Hobart house, another knock answered back. 3 taps, then silence. The house suddenly felt different. Too quiet, too aware, like something inside it had been waiting for years and had finally decided to wake up. I don't think Emily was frightened yet. Not completely. It was something worse. That uncomfortable feeling people get when reality shifts just enough to stop making sense. The kind of feeling most people ignore. Looking back, she should have ignored the call. She should have stayed away from Festival Park. She should have left the old Hobart house and never gone back. Because if she had, maybe she never would have discovered what really happened to Caleb. And maybe she never would have found the door standing among the trees. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you something. Have you ever lost someone without getting answers? Have you ever replayed your final conversation with them over and over? Because if you have, you'll understand exactly why Emily couldn't ignore that phone call. You'll understand why she answered, and you'll understand why everything that happened afterward still terrifies the people of Hobart. Emily Hart had lived in Hobart City, Indiana, United States, her entire life. She worked evening shifts at Montego Bay Grill. Most nights were predictable. Customers came and went. Orders piled up. Coffee refills never stopped. And she spent most of her time pretending everything was normal, pretending she wasn't carrying 12 years of unanswered questions. Outside of work, life felt even quieter. She spent weekends near Lake George, helped her mother sort through family belongings, and tried not to think about the woods behind Festival Park. The same woods where her little brother disappeared. Officially, Caleb had run away. At least, that's what people said. Emily never believed it. Caleb had been 8 years old, afraid of thunderstorms, afraid of dark basements, afraid of sleeping without the hallway light on. Running away never made sense. But over time, people stopped talking about him. The town moved on. Emily never did. Then, 1 week before the impossible phone call, her mother inherited several boxes from a recently deceased aunt. The boxes were stored inside the old Hobart house, a popular old house in Hobart City. Emily volunteered to help clean it out. That decision would become the biggest mistake of her life, because inside that house was a locked room, a room nobody could open, a room that should have been empty, and a room that started knocking back the next morning. Emily couldn't stop thinking about what Mark had said in the woods. My father saw this exact door the night Caleb disappeared. For 12 years, she'd been told there were no leads, no witnesses, no answers. Now suddenly, there was a door, and apparently there had always been a door. Emily and Mark spent the next several days digging through every record they could find in Hobart City, Indiana, United States. They searched newspaper archives, police reports, missing person records, old town documents stored in dusty filing cabinets. Then they searched deeper inside the old Hobart House Museum. What they found chilled them. The disappearances stretched back more than a century. Children, teenagers, even a few adults. Different decades, different families. But the same details kept appearing. Every victim had reported seeing a strange door somewhere in the woods. Every victim had received phone calls from dead relatives, and almost every victim vanished within days. The pattern was impossible to ignore. As word spread that Emily was asking questions, some of Hobart's oldest residents began sharing stories, but none of them agreed. One elderly man insisted the door was a curse. Another claimed it protected the town. A retired school teacher became visibly shaken when Emily showed her an old photograph of the door. The woman's face drained of color. Without saying a word, she stood up and walked away. She never returned Emily's calls. That night, Emily went back to Festival Park alone. The rain had stopped. The woods were still. Too still. The kind of silence that feels wrong. Then she found it. The door had moved. It now stood farther back among the trees, waiting. Watching, like it had chosen a new place to stand. Emily stepped closer. Her hands trembled as she reached for the handle. The instant her fingers touched the cold wood, dozens of children's voices exploded inside her head. Whispering, crying, begging, all repeating her name. Emily, Emily, Emily. She stumbled backward, gasping. And for the first time, she began wondering whether everything she believed about Caleb was a lie. If you've ever lost someone and wished for one more chance to hear their voice, then you probably understand exactly how Emily felt in that moment. Before we continue, kindly like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, and which part of the story hit you the hardest. I believe this story found you today for a reason. Now, let's get back to the story. Later that night, Emily returned to the locked room. Behind a loose section of wall, she discovered hidden records, names, dates, family histories, more than 100 years of disappearances. Her eyes scanned the final page, then her blood ran cold. At the very bottom was one last entry, Caleb Hart, and beside his name was a single word, chosen. The word stared back at her. Chosen. Emily read it again, then again, as if repeating it enough times might somehow change its meaning. It didn't. Her hands shook as she continued searching through the hidden records inside the wall. Behind the pages, she discovered several leather-bound journals belonging to her late aunt. The oldest entries dated back nearly 200 years. Back to the earliest settlers of what would eventually become Hobart City, Indiana, United States. What Emily read next made her stomach turn. According to the journals, a group of settlers exploring the woods near present-day Festival Park had uncovered something buried beneath the earth. A doorway. Not a house, not ruins, just a wooden door standing alone underground. They opened it. Within weeks, strange deaths swept through the settlement. People vanished. Children disappeared from their beds. Entire families claimed they heard voices calling from the woods at night. The the settlers tried destroying the doorway, burning it, burying it, breaking it apart. Nothing worked. Then they discovered something worse. The evil beyond the door could not be stopped, only fed. That was the real secret. The town had never defeated whatever lived beyond the doorway. They had negotiated with it. Every few years, a child was offered, and in return, the town prospered. Crops survived droughts. Disease faded. Families remained safe. At least that was the bargain. Emily felt sick because the journals revealed another truth. Her family had helped maintain it. Her aunt knew, her grandfather knew, and her mother knew, all of them. Every generation protecting the same terrible secret. Suddenly, Caleb's disappearance made horrifying sense. He had not been taken. He had been given. Emily dropped the journal. Tears blurred her vision. Her own mother had agreed. That night, the supernatural activity became impossible to ignore. Children appeared between the trees outside her window. Her phone rang from disconnected numbers. Caleb's voice echoed through empty hallways. Shadows moved when nobody else did, and the locked room seemed larger every time she entered it. Then Emily uncovered one final truth. Mark's father had helped bury the evidence for decades, and Mark had known far more than he'd admitted. He hadn't joined the investigation to help her. He'd joined it to control what she found. As midnight approached, a loud crack echoed through the locked room. Emily spun around. The closet door was slowly opening. Cold air poured out. Beyond it was something impossible. A staircase. Narrow wooden steps descending into darkness where no space should exist. Far below, a red glow flickered between distant trees.
And at the bottom of the staircase, the door stood open. The door stood open. For several seconds, Emily couldn't move. Every instinct told her to run. Instead, she stepped onto the staircase. The wooden steps groaned beneath her weight as she descended deeper into the darkness. The air grew colder with every step. The smell of damp earth filled her lungs. Then, the staircase ended. Emily froze. She was no longer inside the old Hobart house. She was standing inside another version of Festival Park. A wrong version. A dead version. Black water filled the lake, where Lake George should have shimmered beneath the moonlight. The trees were twisted and leafless. Rusted playground swings moved slowly back and forth without wind, and everywhere she looked, children stood silently between the trees, watching, waiting. Then she saw him. Caleb, still 8 years old, still wearing the faded Cubs hat, still looking exactly as he had on the day he vanished. Tears filled Emily's eyes. She ran toward him. Caleb! For a moment, she believed she could bring him home, but Caleb stepped backward. Fear flashed across his face. You weren't supposed to remember, he whispered. Then he told her the truth. The children trapped beyond the door didn't stay children forever. Something changed them. Slowly, piece by piece. They became part of whatever lived inside the darkness. Their memories faded. Their identities dissolved. They became extensions of the thing behind the door. And Caleb was already changing. He was no longer fully Caleb. Neither were the others. Behind her, another voice spoke. Mark. If the sacrifices stop, he said quietly, it comes for everyone. Emily turned toward him, toward the generations of lies. toward her mother's betrayal, toward the town that had traded children for safety. Then everything happened at once. The door slammed shut. A deafening crack echoed through the forest. The trees split open. Roots exploded from the ground like living snakes. Hundreds of faces appeared inside the bark, screaming, crying, begging. Something ancient was waking up. The roots wrapped around Mark's legs. He screamed as they dragged him backward into the darkness. Then every trapped child turned toward Emily at the exact same moment. Smiling, she ran. The next thing she remembered was waking beside Lake George at dawn, covered in mud, clutching Caleb.